the FNL Network talk show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the FNL Network talk show. I'm your host, Diana Jebbia. I feel like I'm currently in a Reese's peanut butter egg coma since yesterday was Easter, and I am joined by some lovely ladies today. We have Holly, we have Kay, and we have Eugenia. How are you guys doing?
I feel like we're all
doing lovely.
What were you saying, Eugenia?
I feel like we're all in one room because we have similar backgrounds and the light. So I feel like we're all just living in one house in like different rooms.
Maybe we are. They'll never know. They'll never know. It'll be our secret. Well, lots going on in the last couple weeks. Obviously, what we do is talk about it. So let's get started. This first question hit pretty close to home because I feel like I'll be 87 by the time I get to buy a house. But USA Today says millennials have finally flipped from renters to homeowners. I'd love to meet those millennials because it's not me. Why do you think this generation is struggling to buy a home? And if you don't own a home, do you think you ever will? Do you think it's even important to be a homeowner? So, Holly, let's get your thoughts first.
Sure. Well, I can tell you, I come from a landowner. My mother had a lot of real estate growing up. She and my stepfather would just like, they had like 5 homes where we were. And these were not like 2-story, whatever. These were like homes that were manageable type of thing. Otherwise, my mother would just like go crazy. But she and my father, they flipped houses whenever they did, my stepfather. And so, it's really crazy because you see all that, you see both sides of things. It's a lot. So landowning is kind of where everyone wants to be at. I want to be at that, even though I'll inherit that. I'm not there now type of thing. I can't just say, hey, it's my home now type of thing. No, it doesn't work like that. With millennial generation, COVID and the pandemic absolutely helped because everyone was living with everyone at the time and people were not trusting of the outside world. They were trusting of their own family members and willing to share germs with them. But as far as you still got a house note. Anytime you own a house, you still got a note. People think it's so glamorous. That's why our generation, that's why we're renting, but the rent has gone, sky high and it remains like that. And nobody really wants that. But at the same time, you got a note attached to that house. You got the bills with that note. Let's just say you have a pool in the backyard, you have upkeep, you have all that. And so only limited jobs can afford to pay these notes. I mean, it's a big deal these days. So you may have the luxury of having your own home. Congratulations to everyone who does. I'm kind of here with Diana on this. I'm kind of feeling her. That's the ideal situation. But what's also the ideal situation? Debt? I don't want debt. Do you? I mean, you know what I'm saying? We don't want debt. So with that comes a hefty note. And I don't want to pay a note. I want to save up. I want to continue to save up, raise your hand kind of thing. Yes, that's me. I'm Holly Hester. I want to save up and I want my house to be totally paid off. So I'm feeling the pain. Anyway, that's my take. Thank you.
I get it. No, totally relatable. What about you, Kay?
Well, I mean, I narrowly escaped the millennial age bracket when I saw an article. This is like 1981 to 96. I was like, yeah, y'all not my people. But, I was like, hey, I'm trying to think of the gift where the lady said, good for her. You know what I mean? It's that whole idea, Arrested Development. That's the lady from Arrested Development. Good for her. I was like, yeah, good for her. I think it's interesting to note that a lot of those millennials got a boost because over the pandemic, they got to move home with their parents and save money. And some of us who grown, ain't moving home with parents. We are parents. We can't move home with parents, So I was like, okay, well, I mean, good for her. 51%, over half of them, 51% of them received parental money and help to get those houses. So are we super excited? Because did they really do it on their own? I mean, I know a lot of people did help, but like 51% of y'all got help. Like, okay. Not that I'm not saying y'all didn't need it. Like, good for y'all. Once again, good for her. But I think that just housing affordability is crazy. I live in California, and just the index of housing being affordable, if you paying like 50% or more of your income on housing is insane. When I looked up the lowest rates of housing affordability, all like out of 10 of the cities they ranked for the lowest housing affordability, 5 of those were in California. So I was like, bro, come on, like we can't win. And the top 10 most affordable cities, none of them were in California. You know, they're like Texas and other places. And so I was just like, this is low key depressing, but I mean, it is what it is. But it's supposed to be good news, right? Because more people are owning homes. So, you know, I mean, good for them. But when the housing affordability index says 80% of homes in America are not affordable, 80% of US homes are unaffordable, according to the housing affordability index. Like, that's just crazy. And so I feel like just home ownership is not what it used to be. And so I mean, while I'm excited for millennials, I know that I feel like that number might be a little bit skewed because a lot of them are getting help from parents, and then a lot of them were able to save up because they didn't have to pay rent. And so it just feels like a special amalgamation of circumstances, you know, to lead them to this. But, you know, I'm happy for them.
I feel that sentiment greatly. Trust me, I'm not one of those millennials who has a house, so I'm on the same side as you. And also, you say you're not a millennial, but you could pass as one, Kay. Like you don't look any older. So
neither does Madonna. No, I'm just playing. We'll talk about that later. Look.
Eugenia, let's hear what you have to say.
Oh my God, I have such a different perspective on everything on this particular thing. Whoever wrote that article, I salute them because I know how press is done. There's like very controversial things, too much different press, whatever is happening in real life doesn't happen in whatever press you're reading. So I'm glad you brought it up because I want people to buy more homes, you know? That's the thing. I grew up in post-Soviet Russian food lines, and our apartments were owned by the government. And let me tell you, it is such a corrupt system, and that's what I feel we're going to have here. By 2030, if you read literally the Economic Forum, they'll say you own nothing and you'll be happy. And I know it's not a conspiracy theory. You have to research and like, you know, see where the Economic Forum is pushing us. And that's exactly where they're pushing us, to own nothing. And let me tell you from my experience, it was terrible. It was the worst thing because my dad was a scientist and we maybe got an apartment, but I grew up literally sharing one apartment with 3 families. We all had one bathroom. We only had a room, and it's all up to the government to like give you this or that. And then, you know, you have to corrupt them in some way to like get a better apartment. So you have no freedom, you know, and I feel that's what's happening in America. Like the economy is being destroyed, honestly, like with the banks taking out, you know, getting like 1% of the most rich people out. And then there's no middle class. They take this money from the taxes that we pay. And people don't educate, like real estate. We just moved to the house. If you guys want, I'll show you. I'm so excited. Probably I'm going to be bragging about it, but I'm so excited we bought it. And I'm obsessed about it, but also it's always a flip, you know, like we always been smart about buying something that we can turn around and sell it because it is always an upgrade. And I think people are just not educated enough. Like whatever you own, any property, it goes up, like if you buy it smartly. And you know, I heard my friends who have kids who are like 24, they actually did move after COVID together, and it's a big challenge for the parents because the kids don't want to work, they just smoke weed all day and, you know, play computers or chatbots or whatever it is. And now all the jobs are replaced by AI just to make it more like super depressing. You know, even more, my kids will move back for sure and live forever in the house, instead of learning how to invest into something that's solid, you know, rather than like NFTs and things that cryptocurrency that can just collapse in a second.
Yeah.
No point.
Yeah, I totally get it. And to add to that, I think it's harder for, you know, people like me because, you know, I mean, one day I know I'll have my parents' help. I'm not in a rush to buy a house, but it also does frustrate me that like I am essentially pouring more money into an apartment than I would by owning a home. But kind of like you mentioned before, Holly, maybe it all does come out in the wash because you have certain maintenance things. Like if something breaks down in my apartment, I call maintenance, they come for free. That's it. But then you have to worry about that cost if you're a homeowner. But I also feel like since my parents' generations, my parents' baby boomers, it's become so harder for kids to be financial, or the younger generations to be financially independent, because the cost of education has skyrocketed. There weren't as many universities and colleges, when my parents were around. There was like community colleges and stuff, but those universities that's one debt all in itself. And then also, like you mentioned, Eugenia, AI's coming for all of us. They already got radio AI personalities. Like, what the heck? So yeah, that competition. And then a lot of like jobs, they want you to have at least a minimum year of experience. But now I have that experience, but when you're coming fresh out of college, you don't have that experience, and they're entry level, but they want you to have 3 to 5 years of experience, and all this, and paying off the college debt, and not finding a job, and working for lower wages. It's just contributed to the difficulty of buying a house. So like, yeah, it's a goal of mine, but Kay, as you mentioned, we live in California. In my neighborhood, I'm in the Valley. I'll go for a walk. I'll spot a for sale sign. This will be a ranch house, and the minimum is 1.5 million. And I'm just like, that's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. So hopefully, things go up. I say that with what little faith I have in the universe right now. But hey, you can always be optimistic. All right, moving on. We're going to talk about our friend Madonna, because she's looking a little bit different. She had a lot of plastic surgery and was criticized about it on the Grammys. But, on the flip side of it, people will also criticize celebrities who look too old. So it's like, where do we figure this out? Where's the line? Why can't we just leave everyone alone? Do you think that, what did I want to say? Do you think we place too much value on youth and being young? I remember Kim Kardashian said she was actually afraid of getting old. I notice now that I'm 31, I realize that's not very old, but like I'm starting to have a different idea about getting older than I did in my 20s. And if you feel comfortable sharing, you don't have to, but have you had any procedures done? And Kay, I'll start with you. Oh, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I had a trash truck outside, so I had to mute myself.
Oh.
Yeah. I haven't had any procedures done, but I don't know. I wouldn't pass up. Like when I see like laser facial stuff, I'm like, ooh, that looks interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe if, when I start to need it. I think something that is interesting, because I have a kid in college, is that when people started to say, like, as my kids started to get older, then people started to say to me, like, oh, you look good for your age, essentially, which is weird, because it then made me more self-conscious about how I look, because I never really thought that I looked older or younger. I just didn't really think about it. But people say it really is a West Coast thing.
Girl, you look 18.
Well, it's very it's very much an a West Coast thing to tell somebody that they look younger as a compliment. To not say, oh, you're really cute, or you're pretty, or you're beautiful. That's not the compliment. The compliment is, oh, I can't believe you have a daughter that age. I thought you were a lot younger. Like, youth is the compliment. Does that make sense, Diana? Like saying you look younger is a compliment. And that is not a compliment you get down south. It's not a compliment you get on the East Coast. You'll get, oh, you're really pretty, or it's a compliment. But the compliment back here is youth, which I think is really interesting. And so it made me more paranoid about it, because I was not paying attention to it until people started to say that. And then my daughters would be like, oh, because we'd be like, that's your daughter? And then my daughter would be like, oh, brother. And I'll be like, oh, they think I look younger. So then she would just be like rolling her eyes. But in the past like 2 years that I've been getting those comments, I now have like a fancy eye cream that I use. I use a wrinkle cream from a dermatologist friend of mine that I would not buy on my own. But I was like, "What you got for anti-aging?" And he was like, "I got a bunch of stuff. Like I get a ton of stuff." I was like, "Send me all your best stuff." He just sent me like a bunch of stuff that I use now because I'm like, am I looking wrinkly around my eyes? Like because now they made me paranoid. I promise to you guys, I didn't care before, but now I love the compliment. I love that you look. I eat it up with a spoon now. I'm so vain now, you guys. Like, yeah. So yeah, if I go out with my daughter anywhere and somebody says I look young, I come home to my husband like they thought we were sisters, and my daughter just be like, "Oh my gosh, like, will you stop?" So I feel really bad about Madonna. Okay, we're talking about Madonna because she cannot win. I mean, that's just how it is with women in this society. Like. I felt the same way about Helen Hunt from Mad About You. Like Mad About You came back after like 20 years, and I used to love her and Paul Reiser, and people were just dragging her for filth. I can't believe her face. It has so many wrinkles because she didn't do anything to her face. And I was like, if she would have done a bunch of stuff to her face, then y'all would have been like, "Oh, her face so stretched and pulled, and her face looks awful," you know. And so I was just like, you cannot win in this. Not even in the industry. I just think you can't win as a regular woman aging in America. I don't know how it is in any other country, but it's just really difficult. And so I'm just like, let Madonna do her. She can't please all y'all. She been just doing her own thing her whole life. Let's just let Madonna be Madonna. I mean, I could talk about if I think it looks good or not, you know, but once again, that's also a matter of opinion, right? Because I know that buccal fat, putting that fat back in is really popular, and then removing that at the bottom is also really popular. I'm just like, whose face, your cheeks are too big. Oh, you don't have enough mass in your cheeks. I'm just like, you know what? We can't keep, you just gotta be able to live. Yeah, I feel really bad about Madonna. I just feel like we should let her live. I think that also, lastly, I just want to say it reminded me of a 30 Rock episode that I saw. I don't know if you guys used to watch 30 Rock a while back, but there's a millionaire on there, Jack Donaghy's character, and he goes with Tina Fey's character to her, what do you call a class reunion? And everybody thinks that he went to the school. They're like, "Oh yeah, you're Bobby from blah, blah, blah," you know? And she's like, "How are you passing? You're 15 years older than everybody at this party." And he's like, "Rich 65 can pass for a poor 40 living." Like, I just thought that was so funny. The idea, like, the richer you are, like, the better kept, you know, you are, and you can just pass for younger. I just
it's not genetics, it's money. And it's funny how you said that you said being called young is a compliment. And my I call them my nieces, they're my best friend's kids, there's triplets, and we were in Disneyland, and one of them goes, "Diana, how old are you?" And I said 31. And I remember when her sister asked the same question, she went, and I was like, "Yeah, I know, same." But she said, she went, "Oh my God, you're so young. You're younger than my mom." Her mom's only 2 years older than me. And I was like, "Evie, baby, you just made my day. I love you." So when a 7-year-old tells you you're young, you take it and you run with it. Eugenia, what about you?
You guys, I'll be such a rebel. I say, don't take it and run with it. Screw them. You know, why women have to face that? Like, why is it women that we're discussing? Have we talked in the news about a guy who is like, you know, Tom Cruise done so much work or whatever, you know, or Brad Pitt didn't do any work and we still think he's hot? Like, what the hell, you know? And the fact that they pair this man with like somebody who is 30 years younger than them to play their wife, which happens to me all the time. I'm like, you're my dad, for God's sake. You know what I mean? Like, stop. I have no chemistry with you, no matter how you try to look cool and young because you're next to me. It's not gonna happen. Like, no chemistry. I'm so tired of that. I literally can't take it anymore. And you know, it's really
tell us what's on your mind, Eugenia. Just go ahead, just tell us.
No, I swear. But also, you know what? I agree with you. Like, women can't win. Like, and I try as much. That's why I started doing stand-up, because I want to have a voice, you know, because I'm tired of that BS, whatever. I don't want to curse because I'm very angry right now, but it might just like come out. That's why I do action films, because I'm just like super frustrated. And, I try to create like models of comedy just for that, because growing up in the industry where you sell anti-aging creams when you're 14, that sucks. Honestly, with it, like they don't want to Photoshop it, so they put like these huge lights, and there's no imperfections. Of course, now it's all filters, but I think it makes so much damage. I honestly am concerned about my daughter who's 11 and watches TikTok, and she's obsessed about the beauty industry. I'm like, don't put that stuff on your skin, that's very dangerous, but it just talks about money and selling stuff, reselling stuff. And also it feeds on the insecurity. And mostly it's women who are insecure because their value is based on their looks. You know what I mean? It's like, it has to change. Like we have to change as a society. And I grew up in Paris and I saw women there having charm and things like that. Like I know it doesn't happen a lot, but it's a narrative that is just very, very ugly and very dark. And it runs through our subconscious mind, through everything, all the storytelling and everything else, where your value is nothing. Like when you can't have kids anymore, then like I know if older models who didn't do anything and they get really criticized and told that they can't wear a bikini. Like, I once I had kids, they're like, oh, you're a mom, why are you wearing a skirt to school? I'm like, I was 21, for God's sake. Why can't I'm a mom, so what? I can't wear a skirt to school or whatever. You can never prove anything. So that's why I'm writing now, not only acting, because it's really frustrating to be part of the culture where they do party with like just men to look good next to them. And I said no to a couple of roles because I'm like, my character would never fall in love with you ever.
I love that. I love that. You're really like sticking it to the man, the literal man. And it's true. Like literally the whole beauty industry has been found on like picking on women's insecurities since the dawn of time. So it's a very good point, Eugenia. What about you, Holly?
I honestly like read that whole article and I'm like, holy, like, hello, like what, like these, first of all, these two women, like both of them have to have good publicists because they both kind of got a voice in this situation. Like Madonna's publicist is probably awesome, incredible. And that others, like now she's over there in Italy, but she's still doing it. What I think is awesome though, is it emphasized on Madonna and gave her a voice, but it also emphasized on the other actress, and I feel like all that was to say, oh, by the way, where is she now? Oh, for her upcoming, type of thing, she's got some projects going on right now and she's no longer in New York. It's like it was an answer to somebody. So clearly the two were like a duo and they clearly were making a stand because somebody told them to, you know what I'm saying? Like these are women empowerment type of thing. Some woman or somebody told them, hey, stick together. Like Madonna alone in an article, nobody really like, people love me. I love Madonna. For heaven's sake, I love her. I mean, I respect the heck out of her. I mean, she reinvented herself at least like twice, if not many more times. I mean, she's done some hard crap. I got a mad kudos to her. But like, it wouldn't have been, we wouldn't have felt it if she hadn't joined with the other duo, with the other actress that I love. I've seen in many things too. So the fact that they're together means, like, in other words, she's telling everybody, hey, don't screw with Madonna here. Like, do not.
Yeah, Debbie Mazar.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now, these were two dudes. Even if it were one dude, I completely agree with Eugenia on this. And you guys would probably all get, nobody needs to listen. A dude can fend for himself. But obviously there was like a buddy deal going on where she was saying back off. And the PR was in that and the articles and stuff like that. What I'm trying to say is there was a subliminal message definitely sent, like back off type of thing, And so we should back off.
Yeah, no, it's true. We should back off. I think you ladies really hit the nail on the head. I personally don't have any work done. I do get eyelash extensions and dye my hair. I mean, that's about it. Knock on wood, I don't have any grays yet. So it's just, I don't know if you found this out, but I'm not a natural redhead. Like, I don't know if it was obvious or not. So that's what I do pretty much. I think that's the extent of my procedures, if you will. But yeah, like I said, when you get out of your 20s, in my opinion, you kind of just look at aging a little bit differently, because when you're 20, it's like, oh, I still got time. Like, I still got time. We're all on this land where, you know, people aren't settling down yet and they're still like going out and having fun. And then when you go to your high school reunion and half of everyone is married and pregnant, then it's like, oh, you know, like we are getting older, and you know, it might be time for that under eye cream, like Kay mentioned before. So I do hope, though, that the advancement of technology, not only with people being kinder, but I do hope that the advancement of technology just helps us to stay healthier, and, you know, extend our lives and extend our youth in that way. So if we could go in any positive direction, I hope it's just keeping everyone healthy and giving people a break, like Holly said. All right, we're gonna kind of continue on the route
Anna,
of
just on the side note, you know,
Yeah.
I feel your red hair is amazing, and
Thank
you
you.
know, it's such a unique choice, and I don't think it's comes from insecurity or anything or fear, because you know, redheads are very, very unique, you know, and
you.
it's actually a hard choice to make, because I know I have a lot of friends who are redheads and they were bullied for being redheads, and you would
Yeah.
never think that. But it's actually, you know, because you stand out. And I think that's what we miss as a society is uniqueness, you know.
Oh,
And
you're so sweet.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's a very different choice for you, like having the red hat and like, you know.
Thank you. It's funny because I forget sometimes that like people don't have bright hair colors, and I'll be like, oh yeah, like this person remembered me, and my friend will be like, yeah, your people notice your hair as soon as they see you. Like, how could they forget it? And I'm like, oh yeah. So thank you. Yeah. It's a fun hair color. I always say I'm like Jessica Rabbit. She's like my favorite. But
What's
yeah.
your natural? What's your
Oh, it's just
natural?
brown.
Oh,
Brown.
okay.
Yeah, I would show you my roots, but I just got them covered. So, and you wouldn't really be able to tell anyway. I'll have to like send you guys a picture.
My daughter's hair is that exact color. And when she was captain of her dance team, and a bunch of, you know, like when you dance on a dance team, you wear the same uniform usually.
Yeah.
Your hair is usually the same way. But once she dyed her hair that color, you could just pick her out, you know, out of a lineup with 50 other girls, 20 other girls on the stage. And her friends were, they would say, that's not fair. It's a cheat code. They called it a cheat code because they can, people always know you in a crowd because of your hair. It stands out. Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it too.
I want to see a picture of her one day.
Yeah.
Now I got to see A, you guys look alike, and B, now we're hair twins. So I'm very excited about this. Yeah, but more women who can't catch a break in Hollywood. Brooke Shields, I don't know if you saw her Pretty Babies documentary on Hulu. That was my Friday night with some craft beer and popcorn. Very interesting documentary because it literally showed how she was exploited for her beauty as a child actress. And obviously we've seen not only her, and thankfully she's come out of it on the other side. She's a very well put together woman. She's got a great head on her shoulders, but you know, not without going through trials and tribulations. And look at other child actors, Mary-Kate and Ashley. Britney Spears started on the Mickey Mouse Club when she was young, and you know, look at her, Amanda Bynes. Do you guys think that mental health problems do stem from being a child in the industry? And would you allow your kids to go into acting? So Eugenia, I'm going to start with you because you are obviously an actress and you are a mom. So I know you definitely are going to have the best insight on this one.
I was sold to the newspaper literally when I was born, like by the government. My mom was like, where's my child? Because they separate babies from moms, you know, in Russia, they used to. That was like, That's why I'm so messed up. But yeah, they took me to photograph me for something about Russian propaganda, and I was like, I didn't sign for that. And I think it's damaging. Honestly, I can't wait to watch it, but also my husband is like, you just keep like re-traumatizing yourself, you know. I know Harvey since I was 18. I had terrible experience in modeling. I was like modeling when I was 13, selling like half t-shirt naked and saying like, let's talk about sex. Like I have those covers, you know. I had no clue what I was doing. I was just part of the message, and I didn't know the dad in like my school, my friend, she brought the magazine. She's like, oh my God, my dad is in love with you. And like I had so much makeup at 13 and like all this curly hair. and just sad eyes, and like looking back now, oh my God, like thank God for my therapist and just self-work. I definitely like the shame that you bring and things like that. I have chills. Like I don't know if I'll be able to watch what Brooke Shields went through, but it's very obvious, the sexualization of the kids and pedophilia. And that's why I work with anti-human trafficking. And actually my ex-boss who used to run Ford Models, she quit the whole industry and started this amazing Freedom for All organization. And we did a stand up for them and raised a lot of money. It's a very important thing. And I think still 13-year-olds sell and are fetishized, and things like Balenciaga campaign. And it is, unfortunately, it's very subconscious, and it looks cool to have these young kids having all this makeup or being part of these films, and like, and then you're thrown out like after, very young. And then you're with guys who are 30 years older than you, and then you're like, okay, now you're 27 and you're too old to play those roles. And you're like, okay, now you just like run my 30. That's Hollywood timeline. So I'm sure, this documentary allowed her to heal. And what I really appreciate, even though my husband thinks I'm re-traumatizing myself, I finally watching all these documentaries and knowing all these people who are just predators, I finally don't feel crazy, because for the longest time in this business, I felt like I was insane and like maybe something is wrong with me, and I don't understand why this guy is like asking me to sleep with him, and like I don't want to do it for the cover of the movie, and like I'm just not that person. But like people don't understand, casting couch now, maybe because of the internet, people are much more careful, but let's not lie, like that's part of the business, and people who speak out of it, like there's this model, you should read her LA Times essay, Emily Ratajkowski. She speaks out about it, very candidly, and I read it, I'm like, oh my God, I experienced the same things that she said, with models being picked up and drawn to clubs, and then everybody appears and it's like free food for you as a teenager coming from Food Lines, and there's all these predators. But I think it's very healing to have your voice, and I'm glad that there are producers behind that. I honestly am glad. I think now is finally the time. I feel empowered a little bit, not to play only Russian prostitutes and spies, and literally just got an amazing role today. And I was like, are you sure? Like, what do I have to do for that? And like, no, just like you as an artist. But it's been a journey, my kids, like, they're lucky if they do jobs, it's without castings, they just go and get their money, and at least they are not spoiled brats who like just get everything they want, and they know work ethics. But I'd be super careful. I've seen parents who push their kids to do anything, and people like Shia LaBeouf and other actors that I know, and singers, God bless Justin Bieber and everybody else.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all that. You're not crazy. You're absolutely not crazy. And I think you're just an example of someone who came out on the other side on top, because every time you come to this show, you mention like everything that you've done to help, whether it's the environment or charity or something, like you're giving back to the world in a very positive light. And as we've seen with other child actors, like unfortunately that wasn't the case. So good for you, Eugenia.
Yeah. Try my best, if I can help anybody.
You're doing great, sweetie, as the meme says. What about you, Holly?
Yeah, I would have to agree with everything Eugenia said. Of course, when your voice is cut off, you really do feel crazy. That's just the deal. When your voice is cut off as a woman, or you feel that it's been tampered with, you really just kind of go into survival mode. And so what you see is a lot of people, and a lot of powerful people, and sometimes we want to envy them, when really we're envious of nothing. We're envious of their platform, when really they just went into this hyper adrenaline mode, and that was kind of the reason for all their success. for, time and time again. And we're seeing it all the time. It's like everyone wants everyone else's, life and things like that. And it's just crazy. It's don't want someone else's life. You're on your own journey. It's the most absurd thing I've ever seen, to be envy. Oh my gosh. And to envy those and to, that kind of thing. And just spreading love is what it's about. But what I would be curious about is for these parents, there's nothing wrong with letting your child pursue their passion if that's their passion, but make sure there's a balance. Make sure they're having fun as much as working. And honestly, when I was reading that whole article with Brooke Shields and her mother, it's good to be close with your mother, but you can't be codependent. You got to get therapy. You got to seek the source. You got to seek God. You got to stay positive. You got to do a lot of stuff. And it's like after a certain point, if what the article is true and it's saying about codependence, it's like you can kind of say back off if you want, Brooke. Like you don't have to do these things. I'm wondering if anyone ever presented that to her throughout her life. Like, honey, you don't. Like someone put her aside. You don't have to do this. You can say no. And like, I'm wondering if that was ever presented to her. Like, honey, when was the last time you had fun? Like, let's go somewhere. Let's go to the park or let's go discover your inner child again, because it's like crying out right now, as they say for the Discovery Zone. Like you freaking need a playground day. Like, or you need like a girls' day, or you need something. Like you're just not good right now, And so, that's okay. But I totally get it about the Shia LaBeouf and all that story. I mean, their childhood was literally taken away. And now they're dealing with all their success and they're just kind of lonely. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Like there's nothing wrong with enjoying, what you've done and the results of what you've done. There's no problem with enjoying your success, but it's like, where's that balance? There needs to be that, like that balance and that fun, like lighthearted. Yeah.
And I don't think she ever had that opportunity just because her mom was an alcoholic. So it's like, not only is she working all these roles, but then it's like, she's got to worry about a sick mom as a kid. Which is really sad. Another point about that mother-daughter relationship before I get to Kay, there is a story about a child actor. The show Zoe 101 was big when I was like growing up. It was on Nickelodeon, Jamie Lynn Spears. And one of the girls on the show, Alexa Nicholas, she was only on for like one season and then was off. And she told the story on Christy Carlson Romano's podcast. I don't remember the name, but she went through all this like abuse on the set. And it was like, she would be crying and her character's name was Nicole. And they'd be like, well, the name's not Nicole 101, it's Zoe 101. So just like suck it up. And her mom was like, I don't want my daughter treated this way. And like gave her the opportunity to get out. And, now she has I think I don't know if it's an organization or if it's just like an Instagram, like for a good cause, but it's called Eat Predators. And she, goes to protest and she says like Nickelodeon didn't protect me. So that's another example of just how having an adult who helps you say no can really make you come out on the other side. Kay, I know you have kids too. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I was following the Brooke Shields. I watched the interview or listened to the interview she did with Terry Gross on Fresh Air, long form, and I was just like, girl, clutching my pearls every sentence. Her and that poor alcoholic mother, and then her, what I thought was interesting? I think when you talk about child actors, there are two separate things like that we don't talk about enough. One is the parents, like you were saying, and the other is the media. They were showing, or they played clips of interviews with her, and media, right, Diana?
It was so bad.
Disgusting. She was 13 and Johnny Carson was like, you're really beautiful, and like lecherous. Like it was gross. Like I was in the store listening on my earphones and I was like, yeah, this is disgusting. And it just made me think about like back in the day when Britney Spears was 16 and she would be in interviews and you had grown men asking her if she was a virgin. Like who's business? I mean, that outlandish crazy stuff that the media does as well was just like blowing my mind. So I was like, wow, like, the industry is not safe for kids in a lot of ways, but then like entertainment that props up the industry, I was like, wow, I hope it's better. I don't think it's much better though, like that was wild. Do you remember that Johnny Carson, Diana? Your eyes got really
and
big.
you said you were listening to it on the documentary. They show you it, and you just see her face. Like this little girl in the chair knows what she's being asked is not okay.
Yeah.
And like she's so uncomfortable, and like there's men like leering at her, and she's so young, and it's just so messed up. And I also thought of the Britney Spears, just getting hounded about her virginity, when meanwhile her boyfriend Justin Timberlake never got any of those questions.
Right. And it's just crazy that we thought that was okay. And that was only a few years ago. That wasn't a long time ago,
No, you're right.
And so that's crazy to me. Like, but that feeds into it, right? That feeds the beast. And then also the idea of the parents, like that when you were talking about Zoe 101, I thought you were going to talk about the child actress that came out with that book, I'm Glad My Mom Died.
That was like Harley. Yeah.
She was a child actor. Yes, and her mom was awful to her.
Yeah.
So it's like that. I mean, like, okay, the industry is this way, but you have to be able to protect your kid as a parent, right? And so it sounds like the Zoe 101 that you were talking about, her mom protected her. She pulled her from the situation and was like, not my kid.
Yeah.
But there's so many other situations where the parent is a sycophant, right? Like they're living off of their kid, like Brooke Shields' alcoholic mother. How are you going to tell your kid that they need to do their homework, listen to you, clean their room, when they're like, I signed your check?
You're right.
You don't even work, Mom. Like, you be on set chilling, you making money off of me. How do you tell your child anything at that point? That's what's crazy to me. So then you're not parenting, you're afraid to parent now, right? So you're afraid to tell this kid no, and you want the bag to keep coming, so you're not going to go to bat for your kid.
Yeah.
So it's just like the parent in the situation that y'all got to get it together. And I know from having my kids work a few background jobs, like very small things, here and there, where my kid, like, most exciting thing is crafty. She's like, I can have this whole bag of Sour Patch Kids. Like, that's her most exciting part. You know what I mean? That was the most exciting thing for her. But I know from being on sets that that you have to advocate for your kid. They'll take your kid to a part of a stage where there's nothing but grown-ups there. I've been on stage with a kid and had nothing but grown-ups around this kid, because it was a Halloween party situation, and grown-ups were talking about anything and saying all kind of stuff around her. And I was like, there's a kid right here, y'all. Like, y'all can't talk that way around somebody's kid. And her parent wasn't able to see her because she was off on a different stage, Mm-hmm. And so if you're not advocating like, hey, I need to be right with my kid, is to see what's happening with my kid, anything could go down. It's just crazy to me. So that idea of like really having to be there as a parent, be there for your kid and advocate for your kid, I think is also one of the downfalls of like child stardom, right?
Yeah. I think everyone's pretty much said what I wanted to say. The one thing I will go off of UK, not only is it like parents they want the money, but I think for some parents, they're living their dreams through their kids, mm-hmm. when this may not necessarily be what their kids want. Mm-hmm. And that's just a whole nother layer of psychological problems and sadness. Yeah. The industry can be a demon. Well, we're going to, for our last question, we're going to keep it light. We're going to have some fun. Easter was on Sunday. Those little marshmallow chickens, peeps, they are very controversial. So I want to know, do you love them or hate them? I'm actually going to start and say, I really am one of the rare people who don't like go on either side. When I was a kid, I loved them. But now I'm like, I could have them, I could not have them. As I mentioned in the beginning of the show, I'm much more a Reese's egg kind of girl. Give me that peanut butter. But if someone's got peeps out on the counter for people to eat, I'll eat it, So, Kay, I know you feel very strongly about this, so I'm going to kick it back over to you.
I am 100% team peep. I have to eat my peep very special. I either put it in the fridge so it's hard, or I like it to be stale. If it's set out for but it has to sit out for days. I had it out for I had a box out for 3 days. It still did not get stale. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to have it out for a good week. I like that it's crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside. I'm a psychopath because I always eat the little chocolate eyes first with no apologies. I mean, it's just the way it has to be done. It has to be eaten in a certain way. Eyes, then the little beak, then the tail, then the body.
I love this. You should do like a YouTube like tutorial, how to eat a peep with
How to
Kay.
eat a peep.
That's amazing. I love the dedication. Eugenia, I know you like to keep things healthy, so I'm dying to know if you cheat with the peeps every now and then.
I actually, when you asked the question, I had to Google what peeps are. It's like, some you never learn in English. So.
Oh my God.
Tell that to you. We should put that on the citizenship quiz. It is a important part of being in America. You either love it or you hate it, and it's important to know. So it's like choosing your political party.
Yeah. So you've never had a peep?
No, of course I did. Like once I Google it, I'm like, of course,
okay, good.
Kids and put it in the hunter eggs and stuff like that. Like it's fine. But we grew up, our Easter is so religious, and we usually fast and then you go to church and you bless the eggs, and it's like a very strict Orthodox thing, and you have to like forgive and be shamed for everything that you've done. It has nothing to do with chocolate sweetness whatsoever. So it's actually it's very cute. But I remember in Paris when I grew up there, they had such a good chocolate, and I think if the chocolate is good quality, it's pretty amazing.
Eugenia, you're dodging the question.
Okay, what is the question?
Do you like peeps? Are you team?
Okay. I mean, I don't eat them, but I like all of them.
Okay. That's fair. They're cute to look at too. I have to say they are very cute to look at. But so when Kay was like, I pretty much like demolished them piece by piece. I'm like, oh my gosh, the cute little peeps. But I get it. They're very tasty. Holly, what about you?
Guys, I have no words. This is like Peeps Central. I feel the spirit of Peeps like strongly going on right now. I've got no words for Kay. That's like a different level of them. I was when I was growing up, they were just in a bag, and it was some sprinkly little things on it, the Easter bags for kids, and there were Peeps on there. I have never heard. Kay, you're gonna have to teach me your ways, grasshopper type of thing, because I this is on another level. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? And as far as Eugenia, that is hilarious. I'm so glad you know what peeps are. Although in your defense, I don't think it's a Russian thing I think it's like a more of an American thing, right? Not where you're from type of thing. But I'm with you, chocolatey goodness all the way. I've never gotten into peeps. Like I've always had texture issues. I think I ate one time when I was like really hungry, and I was like, I hope no one's seeing this, because I'm not true to my peep hate. So I'm not being true to myself. And then it kind of felt like it was an off coloring, like an off flavoring of s'mores. Like s'mores gone wrong in my mouth when it filled up. So I'm like, this is not okay. I'm after Eugenia, chocolatey goodness for me. So yeah.
I get it. People feel strongly about peeps one way or another. I get the texture thing. I remember one time, because they had like interesting flavors. There's some video on the internet somewhere of me and one of the old DJs on our classic rock station, like just stuffing the peeps in our mouth and saying whether or not we like it. And it was just hysterical. But you watching, hey, you should hit us up on Instagram and let us know what you think of peeps, because they're very controversial unless you're Eugenia. And on that note, I just want to thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode of the FNL Network Talk Show. I always have so much fun with you ladies. Like, I love how we can all just have a good laugh and encourage each other, and it's always a good time. So thank you guys for being here, and thank you at home for watching, or where technology ever brings you, because it's the 21st century. You can watch from wherever. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.